Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. I'm always delighted when we have time to sit down with our good friend, Raynard Jackson. He is the president and the CEO of Raynard Jackson and Associates. He does have a website, RaynardJackson.com. And Raynard is a kind of a frontline warrior for black entrepreneurism. And he's been a hawk in this area and trying to fight for more recognition in this area. And so I commend him for this. He himself is an entrepreneur and very experienced. And this man gets around. He is well noted throughout the ranks there in Washington, D.C. Brother Raynard, good to see you, friend. How are you?
Good, Perry. How you doing, my man?
All right. Good to see you. Hey, listen, I understand you have really a fond working relationship with the new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Scott and I met through some mutual friends. And Perry, as you mentioned in your introduction, I have been working for decades with this whole issue of bringing together conservative black entrepreneurs into the Republican Party and the conservative movement. Secretary Bessent attended a conference I did last year with 3 billionaires, and they spent a whole 12 hours basically in a room full of black entrepreneurs from across the country, Perry, and he and I just become very dear friends. And 2 weeks ago, I took 20 of the top black entrepreneurs to meet with him in his office as Treasury Secretary, Perry, and he said something that surprised not only myself, but the whole room of attendees when he said he's postponed meeting with other groups because he wanted his first meeting as Treasury Secretary to be with my group of black entrepreneurs. And so he would not meet with any other group until after this event took place 2 weeks ago. And I blew everyone away, Perry. But Secretary Bessent reminds me of our buddy Jack Kemp, the former congressman, from Buffalo, former NFL quarterback for Buffalo Bills. I affectionately call him the Jack Kemp of black entrepreneurs, meaning he had a passion and a deep space in his heart for black entrepreneurs wanting to know, what can I do to create more opportunities for this group, and what doors do they need me to open? And this is before he became Treasury Secretary, Perry. Now that he's Treasury Secretary, he has more weapons in his arsenal to help us get to the next level.
I guess one of the questions that comes out of this, maybe you can give us a little bit more about him. What qualifies him to be put right into the Treasury Secretary position?
Well, he's the hedge fund manager, Key Square Capital. He used to own. He had to give it up to become confirmed to be Treasury Secretary. But believe it or not, Perry, he used to be the top fund manager for George Soros. He's the one responsible for George Soros making all that money. And on Wall Street, he's considered a savant, a pure financial genius. So he understands the market, the financial market, and he's a very conservative, and folks find it hard to believe that he worked for George Soros, and they are politically opposites of each other. But when it comes to the financial markets, Perry, he is a true genius. And he was President Trump's and Vice President J.D. Vance's top economic advisor during the campaign. He prepped both of them for the presidential and vice presidential debates. And so he reminds me of the old TV commercial back in the 80s, Barry, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. When Scott Bessent speaks, people listen on Wall Street.
Okay, so what are you expecting the road ahead to look like, Raynard?
Well, I tell you, the Trump administration is open for business, especially for the small and minority business community. And as I wrote in the column that you got, Perry, because I love you so much, and you know that, you have an advanced copy because the column will not come out until tomorrow morning. You're the only person who's seen this column about my relationship with Secretary Bessent. And so with Trump's economic policy and with Secretary Bessent been a voracious cheerleader for small and minority business opportunities, Perry, he and President Trump are a match made in heaven. And so hopefully I can play a small role in this dance that they're doing to bring some of the most cutting edge Black entrepreneurs to the table and let Secretary Bessent and President Trump see that. It reminds me, Perry, remember the Cosby TV show back in the 80s? White folks couldn't imagine that there existed Black families like that. And so it is with these Black entrepreneurs, Perry, and you and I have talked about this for decades now. A lot of folks don't believe that there are Blacks who are on the cutting edge of AI, cryptocurrency, manufacturing, IT. And my job and my mandate within the Trump administration, Perry, is to expose Secretary Bessent and President Trump to these cutting-edge leading entrepreneurs who also happen to be the real leaders of the Black community, Perry.
Well, this is wonderful. You're finally getting the recognition that you've worked so hard to get and to bring to the table. Where do you think this will best show up?
Well, number one, it's going to show up in what most people call the underserved community, the inner cities, because guess what? The more business opportunities we create for small businesses, Perry, as you well know, guess what? They're the ones that's going to have to hire and train new people for the workforce of the 21st century. And these are the guys that legitimately, if you've had, say, problems with the law in the past, these entrepreneurs are going to be willing to give you a chance to get yourself together again. Why? Because more than likely, Perry, these entrepreneurs who are hiring all these people because President Trump and Secretary Bessent has created an economy and an environment where they're growing their businesses, more than likely that CEO of that company went to high school with that kid, mother or father who got in trouble. And so that's how you can reinstate and restore people who may have had encounters with the legal system to get them back on their feet and give them a job where they don't have to go back to the street. And so, 80% of all employment is happening by small minority businesses, not the Fortune 500 company. So we are the economic engine that makes this economy hum.
No question about it. No question about that. So let me ask you this. It's a very unique relationship that you would have with the Secretary of Treasury. That's obviously a God thing in your life. That's wonderful.
No question.
So let me ask you this. Do you think you'll see in the immediate future more accessibility to capital for Black entrepreneurs?
Without question, without question. And President Trump has some policies percolating through Congress. Secretary Bessent and I have talked about this issue of access to capital. And the newly installed head of the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler, she comes from the private. She's an entrepreneur herself, and her husband owns the New York Stock Exchange in New York. And so, between President Trump, Secretary Bessent, the administrator for the Small Business Administration, they all are entrepreneurs. They understand what we go through, and they are creating policies that's going to make it easier for us to get capital to grow our firms. Because a lot of these small businesses, Perry, they may get a $3, $4, $20 million contract. The biggest issue is getting the cash flow and the funding for them to be able to get started on the contract that they just won, because they don't get paid for 30, 45, 60 days. And so making sure these guys are able to fund and finance when they get these new contracts under the Trump administration is the key to economic growth.
This is kind of an interesting question, but let me put it this way. Are most Black entrepreneurs conservative?
Oh, without question. Without question. And by the way, Perry, I know this is a gospel Christian-oriented show. Let's send out our prayers to Junior Bridgman. Your audience may not be familiar with him, but he played 12 years in the NBA, a billionaire athlete, Black, and played for the Milwaukee Bucks. He just died suddenly yesterday of a heart attack at a meeting in Kentucky. He lived in Louisville, went to the University of Louisville, but he was a God-fearing Christian conservative entrepreneur as well, and he's just a good guy. So look him up. He's just a beautiful guy, Perry. But Yeah, conservatism is the root of the Black entrepreneur, because guess what? We come from the church experience, and then the entrepreneurial bug hit us. And again, as you and I have talked for years, Perry, Blacks by nature are intrinsically conservative. But again, we feel like we're not invited to be a formal part of the conservative movement. As Secretary Bessent, President Trump, Kelly Loeffler, they all understand that vein of conservatism within the Black entrepreneurial community. And that's just a no-brainer and low-hanging fruit for the Trump administration.
But on the other hand, you just got invited to the table by the secretary.
Yes, I'm flattered, because it reminds me of the scripture and song, Perry, that who is man that thou art mindful of him, the son of man that thou hast visited him. The Secretary Bessent, Terry, he had a hard life growing up in Connor, South Carolina, had to get a job at 9 years old because the family had financial struggle, but was able to finagle his way into Yale University, and the rest is history. And so why he decided to reach out and form this friendship with me, Perry, that's something only God knows, and I don't even question it anymore. It is what it is. And the secretary has extended himself to me and has been very good to me as far as accessing his Rolodex, and even his Treasury Secretary. He's unbelievably busy, Perry, but he makes time for me and my entrepreneurs, and there are several things that we're working on, and he just wants to see entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs, reach their fullest potential. And the only thing they need, Perry, and again, we've talked about this forever on your show, is opportunity. We don't need to be catered to because we're Black or we're male, we're female. Just give us fair opportunity, and we will kick butts with the best of them. And that's what the secretary understands. And so why he and I have this relationship, I have no idea. But Perry, all I know is I'm able to use that relationship to lift up others in the small business community, and hopefully they in turn will do the same within their realm of influence as well, and get America back on track economically.
This is really quite a testimony, Raynard, because of all the conversations we've had about giving the opportunity, looking for the chance, getting the recognition, all of a sudden it's been catapulted to the front of the rows, so to speak. This is a big deal for what you've been working on. Do you think that this temporary adjustment in the economy, from your perspective and working with Black entrepreneurs, do they see that what Trump is doing, President Trump is doing, yeah, there's a little bit of a bumpy road now, but down the road they see it pretty good?
Yeah. I mean, Perry, I cannot overstate the shape of this economy that Joe Biden left for President Trump to deal with. I mean, we have a $36 trillion debt. This CR that the House has passed last night, the Senate will pass later this week. We have a $2 trillion budget deficit this year, Perry. And Secretary Bessent and President Trump have to deal with these horrible financial numbers, get the unemployment rate even lower, get inflation under control, and things are heading in the right direction. Egg prices are going down, oil prices are going down, and so those are key ingredients to reviving the economy. And so to have a Secretary of Treasury who's willing to not only speak to Wall Street, Perry, but he's willing to speak directly to the small and the minority business community, and go into, say, the Black business community, engage with them to inspire them to, hey, there's a new sheriff in town. Help is on the way. We just need you guys to hang in there, and help is on the way. All
right, let me take a quick break. Check out RaynardJackson.com. That's his website, RaynardJackson.com. There's a picture of the landing page. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Raynard Jackson's back with us. He's the president and CEO of the Raynard Jackson and Associates. He also has a website, RaynardJackson.com. There's a picture of the landing page. He's been an amazing advocate for the black entrepreneur, and recently, with the change in administration, a big answer to his prayers. He's now working with the current administration to do just that, and to get more black entrepreneurs to be recognized, to the table, to be capitalized, and to get the contracts. All good stuff all the way around. Raynard, backing up a little bit, back to the election of President Trump, it looked like he even picked up several more percent of black voters. I think it was 3% more or 4% more, maybe you have that number, which is significant. Do you have any idea why?
Yes, in 2016, President Trump received 8% of the black vote, 20% in 12% in 2020, and 16% in 2024. And the reason is very simple. Number one, as we stated, Perry, and before the break, blacks are inherently conservative. The Democrats have lost their mind promoting all this radical transgender ideology, raising taxes, making it more difficult for entrepreneurs by increasing business costs through government regulation, illegal immigration, and wanting to give them amnesty and paying all this money, billions and billions of dollars for housing and feeding illegals at the expense of American citizens. All those things. And then, Perry, just the sheer strength and force of President Trump's personality. He went to places most Republicans wouldn't go, not only in the black community, but in the Hispanic community. He talked to union leaders. He talked to women who were not big fans of the president historically. And so it reminds me of my days at Oral Roberts University, Perry, where Oral would always tell me, go into every man's world and meet them at the point of their need. And that's exactly what President Trump did to get that 16% of the black vote.
That's amazing. So how do you plan with your leadership and now really some fresh wind in your sails by having the secretary with you? How do you plan to break through, if I can use the term, the invisible door into the RNC? Well,
number one, they got new, innovative, outside-the-box thinking leadership. And again, that comes from the President Trump tree. Michael Watley, who I don't know, but people are setting up a meet for he and I think he gets it. And again, this is all a result of President Trump sending the signal out, because change starts from the top. President Trump has brought a coalition together of blacks, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, women, male, female, that we've never seen before. And what's amazing is, during the commercial break, Perry, I was reflecting on our years and years of conversations on your show, and I was reminded of Jeremiah 33:3. Call unto me, and I will answer thee and shew you great and mighty things that thou knowest not. Perry, you and I have talked about my frustration with this party, especially when it comes to black entrepreneurs. Who would have thunk that a black kid from St. Louis City, the inner city hood of St. Louis, would ever befriend a Treasury Secretary from Conway, South Carolina, the rural South? I'm from the Midwest. He's wealthy, I'm successful, and yet our lives seem to have been brought together. It's not a tribute to me or him, Perry. I think you rightfully said at the top of this interview that this was the hand of God. But just imagine, Perry, the years you and I have been talking about this, and now God said, call unto me. And I've been calling through your show and others, Perry, and I will answer thee. Not only did he answer me, Perry, but he said, I'm going to show you great and mighty things that you didn't even conceive of happening. But what are the odds, Perry, of me being able to say that the Treasury Secretary is a friend of mine, that the Treasury Secretary wants to meet with these Black entrepreneurs. I mean, who am I that thou art mindful of me, the Son of Man that thou hast visited me, Perry? So you have been a part of my journey, Perry, and I hope you continue to be a part, and I hope you can be a part of us actually delivering, because these entrepreneurs we've been talking about for years on your show, Perry, they're already successful. I just want them to have another level of success. And with this Treasury Secretary and this president, I think the sky's the limit, Perry.
Gosh, that's so beautiful, Raynard. Beautiful. Black entrepreneurship, does there seem to be a particular area of growth versus another? Is it more in the tech? Is it more in business? I mean, where is the growth there?
Well, it's definitely tech. And Perry, what's interesting is I'm bringing together 20 just cutting edge Blacks, all involved in AI and other areas of IT. And when you think of AI, I'm talking about the cutting edge, Perry. You don't think about Black scientists and technologists involved in AI. But I have recently been introduced to this phenomenal group. And let's just say the White House is very interested in meeting with them, as well as the Treasury Secretary. So we hope to have that under our belt next month sometime. But yeah, so technology, I think that's the biggest growth opportunity. That's low-hanging fruit, not only for our Black entrepreneurs, but for this Trump administration.
Beautiful. Let me point your attention, just a few moments we have left, Raynard. How's the Black church doing, in your opinion?
Wow, I'm very disappointed in the Black church and the church at large. But in the Black church, you got folks like the T.D. Jakes, who's an abomination to God, people like Jamal Bryant, all these are friends of mine. They have prostituted and sugarcoated the gospel of Jesus Christ to where it has become unrecognizable. And Perry, normally in a time of turmoil and change and chaos, people flock to the church. People are leaving the church because they see the behavior of preachers across the country, and specifically in the Black church, that leaves them wanting. I mean, the church used to be the city shining on the hill, the light, the beacon. Now we've covered our light, Perry, and we've become more secular and tried to water down the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the state of the church is very poor right now, Perry, very poor.
Do you see a revival on the horizon?
Not until there's further crisis and devastation, because I think we're not going to go through the preacher in the near term, Perry. People are just going to take revival upon their own shoulders, and they're going to revive the church, not necessarily through the institution of the church, Perry, but among the people of the church. And I think the church, as you and I know it, the bricks and mortar, may be a path to our past versus the reconfiguration of the church coming from the people. And I think a lot of this is going to start with a lot of us meeting in gymnasiums and hotel ballrooms and in our homes to get this church back on track.
That's well said. One last question. I'm so happy for you personally what's going on and how God's answering your prayers, and in a big way on advancing Black entrepreneurism. And I realize Republicans are really lax in bringing Black entrepreneurs into the circle, so to speak. But let me ask you this. Do you think you'll see more Black conservatives run for public office?
Oh, without question, without question. That's going to happen, especially you're going to see a lot of Black entrepreneurs because they've reached a certain level of success, Perry, where paying their bills, taking care of their kids' college education, that's no longer a subject of debate within their family. So they're looking at, God, you've blessed me to this level. What can I do to give back? And a lot of Black entrepreneurs see that you have to have political power and access to fortify some of the changes that they know will not only help them have a thriving business environment, but also the Democrats have gone so far where they want to mutilate 4 and 5-year-old kids and tell them they can have surgical procedures at 5 or 10 years old. And a lot of these parents are homeschooling, Perry. Within the homeschooling movement, the biggest increase is within the Black community. We're taking our kids out of public school and keeping them at home, putting in the conservative values that were important to us growing up. And so look for more Black entrepreneurs to run for political office and to win. Byron Donalds, a dear friend of mine, congressman from Naples, Florida, he hopefully will be the next governor of Florida next year.
Very, very inspiring. Thank you, Raynard. You're a blessing, my friend. You're looking good. And
thank you.
I can't wait to give you a big hug someday when we do something together.
We're going to do that too. Between now and June, I'm making that a commitment, Perry. I'm coming out there, and we're going to love on each other and love on your community together.
Okay. Good to see you, bro. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend.